Okay, Nikita, give me the.
You're good.
We're going?
Yep.
We are going. Good evening. It is 5 o'clock. Call the meeting to order here. Start with the adoption of the agenda. Administration, any additions to the agenda?
No, Your Worship.
Council, any additions or anything you guys want to add there? No? Moving on. Can I get a motion? Councillor Coogan.
I'll move the council agenda.
Okay, motion on the floor to adopt the agenda as presented. Call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Adoption of the minutes. We got a few of them here. Start with 3.1. Capital budget discussions, November 2nd. Any errors anybody sees? Councillor Dean.
I'll move that council adopts the meeting capital budget discussions from the 2nd of November as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. Down to GNP meeting November 15th. Any concerns there, gentlemen? Councillor Prestige?
I'll make a motion with the Governance and Priority Committee, November 15th, 2023 meeting as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 3.3, regular council meeting, November 22nd. Any issues? Councillor Wilhelm. Councillor Wilhelm.
I'll motion that council adopt the regular council meeting minutes from November 22nd, 2023.
We'll get it right eventually. Motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. 3.4, operating budget discussion, part 1, November 23rd. Any issues there? Anybody see? Not seeing any. You want to make a motion? Councillor Wilhelm.
I'll motion that council adopt special council meeting operating budget discussions part 1 in November 23rd, 2023.
Okay, motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor? And those ones are carried. And the last set of minutes, 3.5, is discussion part 2, November 27th. Councillor Dean.
I'll move that council adopt the special council meeting operating budget discussions part 2 from the November 27th as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. We're going to jump around the agenda here a little bit. We have Corinne online. We're going to move down to 8.1, the Northern Regional Economic Development Program Municipal Rebranding. Whenever you're ready, Corinne.
Hi, Council. Good evening. It's nice to see everyone, albeit virtually. So this evening, Council administration is looking for your endorsement on a grant application that we would like to seek through the province. Some members of Council may have seen this grant, which is the Northern and Regional Economic Development Program. So our EDO has discussed this at the Economic Development Committee level. However, Economic Development hasn't specifically earmarked any projects for 2024 that fit within these grant guidelines and parameters. However, the municipal rebranding project that council is earmarked as a priority potentially for 2024 operating or proposed operating budget be adopted as presented does fit within the parameters. Now, as you can see, there are 5 different categories that are listed, and specifically labor force attraction and retention would fit this municipal rebrand. Specifically, they're looking for projects between $20,000 and $200,000, and it is a matching grant initiative. So in essence, the municipality would have to have an approved operating budget to even be able to apply for this grant. So the way our current budget timelines fall, the deadline for this grant submission is December 20th, and administration would also require the motion of an adopted or an interim budget for 2024 that does include this project. So again, that's why we're looking at projects that are being potentially earmarked outside of things that might be coming specifically from the Economic Development Committee. So when we're looking at labor force attraction and retention and how a municipal rebrand falls within that project parameters, The rebrand project will support the municipality to help discover its identity, relating its purpose and message to its residents, and attracting businesses to consider this region for further investment. So we do have several areas where we are looking to hit for labor force attraction and retention under this provincial grant. It is a 50% project grant. Currently, there is $125,000 project grant. Currently, there is $125,000 on the proposed 2024 operating budget for the project. That's all I really have. If anybody has anything further, I'd love to clarify.
Hey, Councillor Dean.
Thanks through the chair to Corinne. So with respect to the funds that are in the 2024 operating budget, the 125K, if our grant application was successful, then we would be looking to, the grant would then supply half of that 125?
Correct, up to 50%, correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from council? I do have one question for administration, because we would have to have the approved interim budget. It's not on here. Is that coming back on the 20th meeting then?
Your worship, members of council, yes, that's correct.
Okay, just making sure for timelines so we can make the deadline. Any other discussion from council? Councillor Coogan?
No, I'll make a motion that council endorses the NRED program application for municipal rebranding.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's carried. Thank you very much, Corinne.
Thanks so much, council. This is going to be an exciting grant application. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. We'll talk to everyone soon.
Okay, we're a few minutes away still from our first delegation, so I'm going to move to 7.1, draft policy 3106.
Your worship, members of council, on November 15th, 2023, draft policy 3106, vehicle and equipment maintenance and replacement policy was presented to the Governance and Priorities Committee for discussion, and a motion was passed to forward the draft policy to council for consideration. Recommendation is that council adopts policy 3106, vehicle and equipment maintenance and replacement, as presented.
Thank you. I do remember the policy we looked at, and it was a very in-depth policy that you brought. It was very, very nice to see. Lots of work put into that. Any other discussion here from council? Councillor Dean?
Move that council adopt policy 3106, vehicle and equipment maintenance and replacement as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Call the question. All in favor? Okay, just making sure. Okay, that one is carried.
Just a moment,
Wait.
just got a text that the gate is closed.
Again? Can you hear everybody?
Okay.
Just have to double check. Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll move down to 7.3. 7.2 will come after our public hearing. Draft policy 1975, flexible work option.
Your worship, members of council, this was proposed policy was brought to the Governance and Priorities Committee meeting on November 15th, 2023, in which it was reviewed and recommended to be forwarded to council for formal adoption.
Okay, any discussion from council on this? Not seeing any. Councillor Dean?
Move the council adopt policy 1975, flexible work options as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Still got a couple minutes here. Let's move down to 7.4, another one from the GNP.
Your worship, members of council, I can take this until Mr. Bichon is back.
Okay, or we can move down to 7.5 if you prefer.
I'll go to 7.5.
Okay, we'll go down to 7.5 then until Mr. Bichon comes in.
Your worship, members of council, this is the mobile communication device policy that was reviewed at the Governance and Priorities, and
was recommended for approval for council's consideration.
Okay, council, any discussion on 7.5? Policy? Not seeing, Councilor Wilhelm?
A motion that council adopt policy 1976, mobile communication devices as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor, any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, about the question, all in favor? That one's carried. We'll go down to 7.6, draft policy 1977, remote work.
Your worship, members of council, again, this is the third administration policy that was reviewed at the November 15th governance and priorities, recommending approval for council's consideration. Approval.
Okay, any discussion from council on this one? Councilor Burrow or Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council adopt policy 1977, remote work as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not see any, call the question, all in favor? It is carried. Now we're still ahead of time for our first delegation.
I think
Go ahead.
we could probably just do 7.4. We discussed this during
Yeah.
GP anyways.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Frank, if you want to take us through
Yeah.
7.4.
Yeah,
then.
your worship, members of council, this was again at the November 15th council meeting, or governance and priority meeting. There was some discussion in regards to amending the policy, including the life expectancy, the county being responsible for signage, as well as indicating that the products are new, and those were incorporated into the amended policy for council's consideration at this meeting tonight.
Okay, anything, anybody see there? Any discussion from council on 7.4? See, Councilor Coogan?
I'll make a motion that council adopt policy 3223, 33 rather, test product signage as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. Okay, so 5:15. We're a couple minutes out. I guess for our 5:15 delegation, if we can maybe, yeah, we can start getting set up and ready for them.
Good evening, Rebranding Council. Before you today is a delegation with the Fort Assiniboine Parent Society. They have a funding request. It's in your package. They're looking for support for their breakfast program. We have Megan Patrician, Jenny Kulkin, and Megan Foster that will be here to present their funding request to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the gate was locked.
No worries,
You're on time.
you're still on time. We thought it was open.
No.
Thank you.
We'll start here. We'll just go around the table, introduce ourselves. You know who you're talking with. Start, Mr. Frank.
Gordon Frank, CAO for the county.
Carrie Stevens, Executive Assistant.
Bruce Prestige, councillor for Blue Ridge.
Dave Cush, Reeve.
Peter Gilpin, councillor for Goose Lake, Freeman River.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Alan Dean, Whitecourt Central.
Audrey Bichen, Director of Infrastructure.
Just start.
Feel free.
Okay. Good evening. I would like to introduce myself as Megan Foster, President of the Fort Assiniboine School Parent Society. Megan Patrician as our Secretary and Jenny as our Treasurer. We are here today asking for your help in feeding our youth a healthy breakfast. Our Parent Society has registered as a non-profit group since 2001. We have fundraised thousands of dollars through local fundraising campaigns, through provincial highway cleanups, through Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis, to name a few. These raised funds have been used to pay for school guest speakers, field trips, special events, technology, transportation, and more. All of these items covered by our group allows our school administrator more flexibility in her operating budget. The Parent Society's yearly budget allows for spending of about $9,000 a year. Because most of our funds raised are from AGLC, we are bound by their use of proceeds which does not align with a breakfast program. Our group applied to a Breakfast Club of Canada on July 15th, 2023. We have been put on their wait list. In the meantime, we have contacted several businesses, including corporate giants to local vendors. We have mailed out about 25 plus letters and spoken to a few local vendors. To date, we are thankful for these efforts have generated us $1,000. Please reference this table, which outlines breakfast examples that approximately $1 a day could buy for our kids. Currently spending is about 50 cents a day. Our request for funding would provide the kids more than 2 ounces of milk, fresh fruit, options, homemade baking, not made from sugar-based prepackaged mixes, and proteins that may not be options at home. These are all ideas originating from our parents and kids. Please also note we serve breakfast to all our kids, regardless of need, which aligns with the Breakfast Club of Canada's guiding principle that all students at the elementary to high school level have access to a healthy breakfast. In August, we met with Cisco, a food service dealer, with hopes that we could lower food costs. We learned that Cisco's bulk supply is geared toward delivery of large volumes that everyday consumer would find impractical to buy at Walmart's or Costco's on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Purchasing milk, though, through Cisco is no cheaper than buying at Walmart. Costs for other items were comparable and sometimes even more, factoring and delivery charges. The start of the school year has brought on several new students and several new volunteers. Our kitchen is back to pre-pandemic days, swarming with parent volunteers. We are just falling short of funding to help them succeed. This type of dedication by our parents is very unique to our small rural community school. Since spring of 2023, we have put a lot of time and effort into sourcing grants and other funding, looking for better cost-effective ways to feed our kids, and relying on our volunteers to continue to travel to Edmonton to big box stores and wholesalers for smarter spending. We are grateful for FCSS's donation of food items for those in financial need. Every item counts. The Fort Assiniboine School is the one school in Woodlands County aside from the town of Whitecourt schools. We are a small community rural school with different needs and considerations from those in larger centers. We want to be visible of your map, be heard, and be considered. Please be a helping hand to our uniquely rural youth.
Can I just add a woot woot for my parent society?
Thank you very much. I can definitely say I have my children go to school in Whitecourt, and my son was at Central School last year, and that was one of his highlights every morning was, you know, seeing what the breakfast program was going to offer, because for some reason the school's toast was better than we could make it home. I'm not sure, but
Right? Everybody does it better.
Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, I'm the school liaison for Fort School, and it is the only school in the county, so I appreciate all of the volunteer work that you guys put in, because I know, I see it whenever I go through town. I see all of the people that are in the school doing stuff for those kids. So I appreciate that you guys did come to council. I mean, it's going to be up to council to decide what we do with this. And but the big thing is that I feel that the way that we have expanded the interest in the school and what's going on in the school is kind of unique for rural schools. And I know that a lot of the new folks that have come here really, they were homeschooling their kids, and now they're coming to the Fort School because of what it has to offer. So it's because of the volunteers and the work that you guys do that makes that happen. So I really appreciate that.
Councillor.
Through the chair, to you ladies, I note that you say that the Whitecourt Central School receives a Breakfast Club of Canada annual grant that fully funds their program, and you guys have applied and you're on the wait list.
Yes.
So did you operate a breakfast program in the past and you're resurrecting it, or is this is new?
We have always, I think, had a breakfast program. as volunteers, we were never, I guess, bound by a certain dollar amount to spend up until just recently. And this, I guess, is all new post-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, our kids were happy, they were eating whatever they could, had just full glasses of milk, it was great. Pandemic hit, we lost a lot of volunteers, no one wasn't allowed in the schools, we had very limited breakfast. So, not being part of, I guess, our administration's budget, we don't know, like, we've been given money, I guess, but just not enough to sustain,
Do you want me to jump
back
in?
to
Can I?
what-
Can I just add to that? Like, I'm the principal, Lorna Heemstra, at the Fort School. And the government did give a nutrition grant, and that started at 14,000, it's down to 4 now for food.
Okay.
And I'm not sure with Breakfast Club of Canada, they get that every year, once you're in, or?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Once you're in, you don't have to reapply yearly. Like you're just given
Okay.
that money.
Yeah.
I don't know how they assess what amount you get, or is it like I don't know if it's based on how many kids you have or
So
who needs it.
our funding is
but
definitely not being stable. That the work of these ladies is what's made the difference. Yeah. Thanks, Jenny. Sorry, I just went.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Lorna. I appreciate that. So
Councillor Dean.
So just to follow on that, please don't interpret these questions as me not being in favor of the program, because I am. I recognize the value of nutrition and learning and the correlation between the two. But I'm just wondering that if you're successful in that Breakfast Club of Canada grant and it fully funded your program next year, then there'd be no funding concerns and you wouldn't be coming back to, this is kind of a one-time to get you through until the grant is approved, hopefully approved.
right. So the wait list is unknown. We don't know how long we'll be on there.
Sure.
I've heard other schools that have applied a long time ago and haven't heard anything back. So we hope that we don't have to come back next year and that we're granted that funding. But who knows, right?
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else from council? No, I do question for administration. Our recommendation says to accept as information, but if council is wanting to possibly add this to our interim budget or discussion, would be a motion to, I guess, add the 16,982 to the budget.
That, your worship,
Okay, I'm just making
yes,
sure.
that's correct.
Councillor Coogan?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the council accept the Fort Assiniboine Parent Society delegation as information and put, I don't know, we need to.
Yeah, just, you should vote on that and then if there's
Okay.
a second motion.
Okay, so we're gonna do the first motion is accepting the delegation as information. I'll call the question, all in favor? That one's carried.
I'll motion that we take the funding request to the interim budget on December 20th for discussion.
Okay, motion on the floor to move 16,982 to the interim budget discussions December 20th. Any discussion from council on that? Not seeing any, I'll call the question, all in favor? That one's carried. Thank you very much for the presentation, and hopefully your funding comes in for you guys. I know it's, you know, anything we can do, especially with the families and where a lot of things are right now to help the kids out is definitely a plus for the community.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Okay, now we've 4-1. Pardon? Yeah, we got I don't think we have enough time before a 5:30 delegation. I guess maybe we'll just take 2 minutes.
You can start with your reports, or you can have my report.
Okay, if you want, we'll start with, no, we're jumping all over the agenda here, Dave, making delegations work. Let's go down to the CAO report, 10.2.
Yeah, your worship, members of council, not a whole lot in regards to it. However, the one thing that was announced today, the provincial government is accepting applications for the DRP, the Disaster Recovery Program. There is a portal that residents can go to, and there's probably an email that the council received late this afternoon in regards to that. And then the only other thing is we're dealing with a round of sickness in our offices and managing it as we go. So, and those are the two items.
Okay, start with Councillor Wilhelm, then over to Councillor Coogan.
Through the chair to administration, I'm sure we've got a working list of the affected residents. Are we going to forward on that link to those residents specifically?
Yeah, your worship, through to Councillor Wilhelm, yes, we'll do the social media engagements and stuff. It's their website and we'll direct them to their website. Yeah, and then depending on, we had a meeting today, and depending on the number of applicants, once they have a 90-day portal, 90 days to apply. And once they start to see the intake, they would say they may even go one-on-one with the individuals, because we're anticipating between 10 and 20 applications. But again, we've said that there's 120 areas affected, parcels affected.
Just to follow that up. Yeah. My only worry would be maybe some residents aren't on social media or well connected in that manner. Is there a way that we can connect with those residents alternatively besides social media?
Yeah, we'll put the ad in the paper, and then we can reach out to it's a small group. It's not a
Thank you.
huge group.
Councillor Coogan?
Yeah, just a question. Is the lady that owns the Freeman River Campground here on that list?
No, the individual, this is the event that took place between June 12th and 16th.
So along the McLeod.
Okay, so that's the only one that would be in this particular.
That's correct.
Councillor Dean?
Through the chair, a couple of questions. Can you clarify the dates, June 12th to 16th?
I believe that's the correct dates, yes. I don't have the draft media release.
Yeah, I think it was the 20th.
20th to the 26th then, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question is, you had mentioned earlier in response to Councillor Wilhelm about the communication with the residents. You said you would reach out, so that you guys are going to reach out by telephone to make sure everybody's aware?
No, we'll reach out through social media, through the newspaper, print. Once we then get an indication of how many have applied through the portal, then through the 90 days determination, we'll then reach out to other people that we believe that would be affected by it, right?
And how will you reach out?
Once we know whether or not.
Telephone?
Yeah, or in person. Again, we have to see how many apply first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Coogan had a follow-up.
Yeah, just my question would be, why would the subsequent flood that flooded the Freeman River and down here not be in the DRP?
That's the government of Alberta's choice. Yeah, it's a government of Alberta program, like the provincial government's program.
Okay, so they just didn't include that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for the CAO? Not seeing any, can I get a motion to accept the CAO report? Councillor Prestige.
Motion to accept the CEO's report.
Okay, motion on the floor, call a question, all in favor? That's carried, and we are coming up on 5:30 here for our public hearing. Okay, so I guess I got to start here. I'll introduce my introduction. My name's Dave Cush. I'm the Woodlands County Reeve and Councillor for Division 1 in Selma. I'd like to start by going around the table for the members who are here. Just for an introduction, I'll start with Mr. Frank.
Thank
Gordon Brink, CAO for the county.
Bruce?
Bruce Prestige, counselor for the Blue Ridge area.
Peter?
Peter Kilkenny, and I'm counselor for Green River and Queens Lake.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Alan Dean, Whitecourt Central.
100% Director of Infrastructure.
Okay, before we begin, I'd like to note that during a public hearing, we're reminded to respect views of everyone in the room and allow each individual their time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. Members of the public wishing to speak in relation to the public hearing subject will need to state their full name, identify their address within Woodlands County, and whether they're speaking for themselves or for another person or group. All discussions of members of council, administration, and the public shall be directed through the chair. Council does not debate this matter during the public hearing, and the decision regarding whether to grant the development permit will be dealt with after the close of the public hearing. Public hearings are to allow input on facts and offer the public an opportunity to provide their feedback. The public hearing is not intended to be a question and answer period. Questions and comments must be limited to items concerning the specific subject of the public hearing being proposed for development permit 15-060-2022 for natural resource extraction and processing of a Class 1 pit on Northeast 2-62-5 west of the 5th Meridian and Plan 0929270, Block 1, Lot 1, and receipt of additional information requested by council being a traffic impact assessment and cost analysis. So with that, I'd like to call the public hearing to order here at 5:31. And Joan, please.
Good evening, council and those in attendance. On January 16th, 2023, a public hearing was held to hear comments from the public and government agencies on development permit 1560-2023 for a Class 1 gravel pit and processing down in the Pride Valley area, being northeast of 2-62-5 and including Plan 0929270, Block 1, Lot 1. As noted in the January 16th public hearing, the developer's application had met the intent and requirements of sections of the Pride Valley Area Structure Plan as well as Section 73 of Woodlands County's Land Use Bylaw. And where information was not provided, administration had ensured that if council did consider approval, those requirements would be met. And just as examples would be noise monitoring or water well monitoring. Council at the February 1st meeting did review the development application, however requested additional information from the applicant for further consideration, being a traffic impact assessment and at the time a socioeconomic study. The consultant and the applicant, along with Nichols Applied Management, were in attendance on April 26, 2023 at a council meeting just to clarify what those requirements for the traffic impact assessment and moreover the socioeconomic study would entail. Council was advised at that time that the socioeconomic study that was requested was outside of the what a municipality can request under Part 17 of the Municipal Government Act. So council did rescind that motion and then proceeded to make another motion just requesting that the traffic impact assessment be provided. That traffic impact assessment has subsequently come into fruition, and council also at their motion had requested that another public hearing be held just to review that information. So the TIA is included in council's package. It was available to the public for review as well. No public inquiries were received on the traffic impact assessment. Essentially, the TIA analyzes existing roadway and intersection conditions. It did traffic projections, traffic analysis, and provided some conclusion and recommendations, indicating that the development will generate roughly 100 vehicle trips per day or 50 truckloads, but if there's
possibly large contracts, could potentially be 200 vehicle trips per day. Combined with all the pits, there could potentially see 400 trips per day. In the Pride Valley Area Structure Plan, there are 4 potential haul routes that were identified in the recommendations. Route A, which is the existing haul route from 620A through the hamlet, is the shortest distance, and no upgrades would be required with respect to that route. Routes B and C that were identified are double the length of the existing Route A, and they projected construction costs at roughly $7.5 million plus additional ongoing maintenance costs. Route C is 3 times the length of Route A, again costs estimated at $7.5 million to upgrade plus ongoing maintenance. It was recommended in the report the continuation of identified haul route A, minimizing distance on county roads, no upgrade costs, and minimizes ongoing maintenance and operational costs in the county. It did suggest some mitigation measures to consider between the municipality and Alberta Transportation, improving speed compliance and traffic safety, which could include curb extensions at strategic locations along Highway 661 in the hamlet, and then restrictions on travel before and after school times should be maintained. The county also supplied, per council's request at the time, a cost analysis for maintenance. And Andre, I don't know if you want to speak to that or if you want me to go through
Go
what
ahead.
had been provided. Okay, so Route A, the majority of the route is cold mix. Life expectancy of that is 2 to 3 more years, possibly. The county could consider realignment of a corner at the bottom of East Hill to improve traffic safety. Route B, additional graveling, and this is one that would have to be constructed. Additional graveling estimated at $59,000 per year. Route C, additional graveling is estimated at $40,000 per year. Route D, additional graveling would be estimated at $20,000 per year. It should note that the burden of additional truck traffic would require regraveling and grading. However, that is generally placed within the road use agreement as part of their requirements. As well, the county receives 40 cents per ton gravel levy, which is established under the Municipal Government Act from each operator each year. In 2022, approximately $27,000 in revenue was seen by the municipality. That was just one operator out of the valley. In 2023, we'll see an increase in that amount as a second operator came on board, and then this would be considered the third operator in the valley that would also come on board. The municipality, with those off-site levies, see roughly $368,000 in 2022 as revenues. Council could consider in the future allocating levies specifically to areas, assigning them to specific programs, maintenance, or other projects that maybe benefit the specific area that the gravel's coming from. It's been estimated the amount of gravel in the valley, the county could see upwards of $70 million in revenue from gravel levies over the years of development of the pits in the Pride Valley area. The public hearing was advertised. Letters were sent to adjacent landowners and government agencies. We did receive one letter from a resident in the valley. Mr. Radke is in attendance this evening and wished to address council with some photos. No further comments were received from government agencies, with the exception of this morning. We received an email from Alberta Transportation. Essentially, they reviewed the traffic impact assessment, and they agree with the findings of the traffic impact assessment. For transparency to the public, attached are also recommendations that council can consider after the public hearing on the development permit, which could be refusal for reasons or approval with conditions. The developer would be required to meet during operations of the pit.
Okay. Council, any questions, comments in regards to the application for administration? Go ahead, Councillor Coogan.
Okay, this road currently has basically supplied the access for 6 residents in 1 active pit. Virtually, that's only one is active for this period of time. So the question I have, has there been consideration that approximately 3.5 kilometers of the road that will need some upgrades, and that's the very end after the where the gold mix is, because that goes to the other 2 pits. Is there been consideration to upgrade that? Because currently some of that doesn't even have a grade to it. The very end of it isn't even graded. And there's also 1 bridge structure that would be part of our responsibility. Am I correct with that? Okay. Just a note. And then we have in 2027, 620, there's 6 kilometers of cold mix, and we currently have a plan for $450,000 in our extended budget for redoing that. So that's another 3 or 4 years down the road. We may have to bring that back. And then 250,000 in 2029. That's what was projected. This is a 55-year project, according to the thing. So that's just a concern that I have. This is that our infrastructure will be managed in that way. And then the increase in use will definitely bring into that every 5 years or so there's probably going to be $500,000 spent on cold mixes, if that is what this cost is for. Would that be correct?
Yes and no. Every 5 years, that is the accepted life expectancy of coal mix, but typically we get 7 to 10 years. Currently, that coal mix road is 10 years old, probably has another 2-3 years.
Then the next question would be, has there been consideration of the possibility at the Basta River taking 628 out at the right along the first stretch of the right out of town? Because if it hadn't been for your guys' quick response last year or this summer, that road would have been flooded, and the river has moved within 30 meters of the road now. And so has there been consideration that that's possibility that that's going to be a big cost in our future as well?
Through the Chair to Council Colkin, we've had preliminary discussions regarding raising the road, but nothing more than that.
But it potentially could become a problem down the road, much like floods, like what happened along the McLeod on the old ferry road.
Realistically, over a few decades, possibly, yes.
Okay, and then the other question I had was, what is the extra cost of maintaining our water and sewer underneath 661? I mean, it may not be part of, but because of the amount of traffic that's going through there, we'll be digging up, we dig that up every year 2 or 3 times, so there'll be an extra cost there. And that would probably be something that we would have to consider.
Through the Chair to Council Colkin, I think pretty much all the excavating we've done to repair water has been the services. I think they're pretty much all done now. The impact of additional traffic on the infrastructure would be next to nothing.
Okay, and then the last question is, how are we going to enforce both the working hours and the noise? Because it shouldn't be up to complaint, it should be up to compliance. That's just an off on, would be my last question.
Through the chair to Councillor Kilkin, there's a requirement that a noise monitoring program be established. So they would do essentially monitoring as to what the volumes are now, and then there's a baseline of, think of it's 85 decibels, and it can't exceed that number. And then if that did exceed, of course, making a call to our office and having, us contact the operator. And, we can do through the land use bylaw fines, or we can have the peace officers issue, orders as well.
Quite a good question for administration on that. This noise monitoring, is it gonna monitor the area, like the whole area? Cause I know we've had concerns last time about, operators are currently with noises and stuff coming out, and I don't wanna be on onus on one applicant if this is something that could be, you know, possibly an issue with another applicant.
Through the chair, the noise monitoring takes into consideration, because there are operators also on the other side of the river. More than likely, and the other development application that was approved previously has also got that same condition on there, so it's not just on the one operator. And of course, it will have an accumulative effect too, but essentially noise from the pit itself and then the hauling as well is taken into consideration.
Okay.
We had done, trying to think of when that was, when Mindus Pit was being done, we actually went out with noise monitoring equipment and standing right there with the trucks passing us within feet. I think the monitor went up to 65.
Councillor Dean.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, a couple of questions. The first one is, within the TIA, the traffic impact assessment, it speaks to potential speed reduction strategies that could include curb extensions, etc. And it suggests that the speed compliance would be for all road users, not just the increased truck traffic. If the residents of the area decided that was a good idea and administration went forward with a plan, is the county expected to pay for that, or would we then ask the operator for some help?
Through the chair, Councillor Dean, we can definitely, because we can get into, we get into a developer's agreement, and items like that can be addressed. So if there's any type of road maintenance or additional that needs to be completed, like the suggested curbs,
Yeah.
and we'd have that conversation with every operator.
Okay, so that's gonna be captured in future conversations with the The second question was, the gravel levy that you spoke to, I think what I heard you say was, with the increased tonnage coming through, it could amount to something on the order of $70,000 annually, attributed to gravel coming directly from these pits. Now, I haven't spoken to council, this is a new concept, but in my mind, a gravel pit, the operation provides a benefit to the province. The majority of the benefit from a pit is going elsewhere. You know, like gravel is being used in other places, and yet the nuisance, if you will, for lack of a better term, is all local. And I'd like to suggest to council that number one, that we work with the operator as to, in good faith, a gesture to work with the community on potential community projects. And then for council to look at these levies to see if they, instead of going just straight into general revenue, if there isn't some funds that could be earmarked for the area.
Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, just a question for Joan is that it seems to be as well right now that the current GOA is open to this resource road identification and help municipalities. And you mentioned that in the last conversation we had. You know, one of the things that I would suggest then is that would there be a possibility of us getting into a discussion with those owners and say, okay, what are some of the things that we can do here to, get some provincial dollars, because like Councillor Dean says, this is that the lion's share of what impact down there is the burden of the community. So there may be a possibility to have a look at that as a leverage to change the route, possibly increase the ability for those operators to work more freely as well.
Through the chair, definitely those conversations can be had. Suggestion, kind of ahead of ourselves a little bit on my other request for decision, some things that we need to look and can move forward for. And those kinds of conversations can definitely happen. And once we can bring all of those operators together, so that we're not just putting the onus on one. And then, yeah, having those conversations, relooking at the Pride Valley Area Structure Plan itself, as to, what may be better suited, I mean, it's been 10 years since that document's been, adopted. There may be different philosophies out there as well.
Thank you. Other questions from council? Okay, not seeing any, move on to the applicant, if he's got any further information you'd like to give, or any other words.
Thank you. Good chair. Yeah, the idea of barriers across the highway through the downtown core, I thought that was a fantastic idea. My name is Dennis Twidoff. I'm a sand and gravel consultant and a project manager. So the studies that I wasn't capable of doing, I third-partied them out, and the traffic impact assessment was done through Sheffer Andrew out of Edmonton, a gentleman named Sean Benbow. And yes, his recommendation for the curbs was a really good idea. I've seen it in my neighborhood. I live in Calgary, and there is a school down the street, and it's a wide street where people can park on both sides, and people just tear through there. So this year in the spring, they put in these temporary little islands with pylons, and very cheap, economical, and they jut out where the crosswalks are. And so that forces all of the drivers to, because it's a narrow lane to go through. So if you're charging down that road, it's going to get your attention, and you're going to slow down. So I think it was I think it's very effective in my neighborhood, and I thought it was a really good solution for you guys, because I know a lot of the concerns were crossing that big wide road between the museum and the library, and if you were to put up a couple of temporary, these little plastic islands with pylons that jut out, and people can still park, I think it would be very effective. And talking to the engineer who wrote this today, he said the cost would be, in the thousands compared to 7.5 million for going around. So he thinks that that's a much wiser solution for the county. That's my only comment.
Council have any questions for the developer? Okay, not seeing any. I'll thank you.
Thanks.
I'm gonna move down to public feedback. We'll start with anybody speaking in favor for the development application. Won't everybody jump up at once? Okay, moving down. Anybody who wishing to speak who's opposed of the development? Please.
I'm Brian Radke. I'm a landowner, resident in Pride Valley there. And do have, you know, a lot of concerns with the proposal. I sent in a written document addressing some of my concerns. And it was actually the same one I sent in last time at the last meeting. You know, it concerns me for the whole Fort Assiniboine area, for the people here and their enjoyment of life, you know, to enjoy their property and so on, with the noise and the impact and all that. It'll bring, you know, a lot of traffic. You know, it'll change the community some. You know, I think through the town, there's lots of concerns for traffic and noise, you know, as well as the road. And the road going to the pit and so on, is that gonna wind up to be a, you know, a cost for us? Is it gonna be monetarily a benefit for the county? Or not? I don't know if that's been, you know, really figured out yet, cause there's gonna be lots of costs. I think the noise is one of the biggest things. I know, you know, for the people in town, for myself in Pride Valley, noise level of 85 is quite loud, and it seems like that's was kind of the allowable. I don't think any of us here would want to live in that. And it is noisy down there. That noise in that valley just, you know, it stays in there, and if you're there a lot, you realize that, and more operators, more noise, it just grows and grows and grows. And I know we get some noise from the other side of the river as well. And hours of operation, I don't feel that that's adhered to a lot of the times. And that in itself, if the hours were kept and people had their weekends to enjoy and that sort of thing, that would help. Mitigate against it. Because there's not much enjoyment when you're listening to that. And when there gets to be more pits and it's all around everybody, there's no relief all of a sudden. All of the stuff there. It's just no big lineup, so. I think it affects people's enjoyment of life and their businesses as well. But it changes what people might do down the road. It changes what I might do down there. And, I don't feel gravel pits add a lot to the community. I think some tourism might be a lot more valued to the people of the area, and in the long run be better off. And the hours of operation, I don't think that should be up to one neighbor to turn in another neighbor. I think it needs to be monitored. And maybe there should be a log of when they operate, and when they ask to operate for 24 hours. There should also be a log of the gravel that's going out to make sure that the county is not getting shorted on there, and I don't say they are, but I think down the road and there's lots happening. That could be a good idea. I think there's huge environmental risks. I have pictures that I've taken over the last few years, aerial photos of the area, on the proposed area, and I'd like to pass them around if I can. That shows just how wet that area gets in the water that flows through there. Most of the water that floods in Pride Valley all goes right through where that pit is. And I have lots of photos I could share, but if I could just share a few of them of that exact area.
Just went out of your 5 minutes here, so.
Okay. Yeah, just, my concerns are all written down and that's. So can I, pass around those photos? Or-
If you'd like to, yep. So you always pass down. Anybody else like to speak?
What's that? Yeah, I have enough copies for everybody that's here. So they're all, it's 2 different dates, and it shows the flooding in the areas.
You can explain it to council.
Oh.
Thank you.
So the area that's outlined, can I speak?
Yeah. Yeah, I got nobody else, I'll give you another couple minutes here, so.
What's that?
We got nobody else willing to speak, I'll give you another couple minutes.
Okay, so the area that's outlined in red there is the proposed quarter section where the gravel extraction is. And, you know, it shows major flooding on there. The second picture there, you know, also major flooding, and the water had receded quite considerably by then, but still, most of that quarter by far is covered with water. And most of the water that gets out of that valley when it floods, it goes through that quarter section. And I have other pictures, I have lots of pictures if anybody wants to see, but you can see that it all flows, it all channels. It goes through there. I don't know why an area like that would be considered. I don't know why Alberta Environment let it go if they had a really close look at it. No, I suspect that the council has been in that area, but I don't suspect that they've been there when it's flooding. And I have tons of pictures of gravel, you know, infrastructure, machinery, flooded in that valley, oil and gas stuff all underwater. When that river gets going, it does what it wants. And it's, environmentally, I don't think it's very good. And the channel that goes out to the east there, that's a fish-bearing channel as well that people do fish in. So the fish, you know, can easily get up there. That should be a concern, but I don't think it gets passed by. I think there's some pretty revealing photos.
Right.
I have lots more if anybody wants to look at them, or if you want me to drop them off. Council or whatever.
Yeah, I think Councillor Kulkin last time shared a bunch of pictures with council here also, so. Again, I guess moving down here, I want to ask one more time, anybody else in the gallery would like to speak? Okay, not seeing any. Move down, final questions from council. Anything else for administration? Councillor Kulkin?
Yeah, I guess what happens here is it brings up the question, and we had that conversation actually with Minister Schultz about, you know, we as a county grant these permits. And at the end of the day, we are, I guess, bound by what information, government environmental people accept or do not accept as, because that's out of our hands. Land use is within our hands, but we're still having to give the permit. So I guess when you see this, is you begin to question, you know, what is our responsibility there as a municipality? And so I think it serves to have a good discussion about that later down the line, because, you know, we're bound by our bylaws, and yet Alberta Environment seems to not consider floodway or flood fringe as a problem for them, except it is a problem for us, and we've seen that in some of the decisions that we've had to make for. So I guess my question just is how are we gonna move forward on this debate?
Any other questions from administration? Or for administration, sorry, Councillor Prestige?
Through the chair. When Alberta Environment looks at this to give their yes or no on the permit, I've dealt with some gravel pits, and it's up to them to decide whether to do this gravel, or whether they will give a permit for it because it involves water. As soon as you go into the water table, it has to be Alberta Environment makes that decision. So I think if we do have more discussion on this, we have to have Alberta Environment's participation at the meeting.
Any other comments from council? Mr. Poopin?
Well, the only comment that I would have here is that the plan says that there's gonna be an end pit lake there when it's done, and for me, that raised a big question is that does the river will constantly fill up those pits, and so you know, this is always in the planning, and I'm sure the consultants would have something to say about it, but I really question this personally.
Any other questions? Councillor Wilhelm?
Just through the chair to administration. I'm assuming that the application for this gravel pit has gone through the Alberta government already, and
Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, yes, the applicant has put forward those applications through the province. The province, my understanding is that they have received their approvals, they're just essentially waiting for the municipality's approval. They have also addressed the flood and made those applications as well, and how they would mitigate in the event of a flood.
so I don't know why Alberta, the environmental would need to be involved. It sounds like they've already approved it.
Involved. Yeah. Just looking at time here, we do have another delegation we're behind on. Checking any other questions from council before we get ready to move? Okay, not seeing any. I would like to thank everybody for coming for this. Thank you for the presenter for being here, and Mr. Radke for your information there too. Thank you. With that, I'll conclude the public hearing for development permit 15060 2022 for natural resource extraction and processing of a class 1 pit at 6:08 p.m. And thank you, everybody. And I know we're running a couple minutes late, but we do have a 6 o'clock delegation for the Fort Assiniboine Bicentennial Planning Committee and Fort Assiniboine Friendship Club.
If we gain some time after this one, can we?
We have another one right after this at 6:15. We'll get through these two delegations. We'll take time. Unless you gotta go right now.
I'll explain, it's okay.
You're nice, Jeremy, it's fine.
recuse myself and come back.
We'll get through this one, we'll take a minute. Mr. Klein,
Good evening.
you need us to go around the table for you, or are you still familiar with who's here?
You're perfectly fine. I've met you all before, thank you. I do get out. So, yeah, just gonna give you a little update or final report on what happened here this summer, and thank you for having us today. I may have been the chairman, but you see behind me a lot of people that were part of the committee. If I don't know the answers, I'm gonna refer questions to them, so it was one of those things we did this summer. Without these members on this committee, there's no way it would have happened. One of the best committees I think I've ever worked with. A lot of input and a lot of work went into it. So I'll just do my report. First Assiniboine Bicentennial Committee that was put together over a year ago to celebrate our 200th anniversary met monthly, sometimes bi-monthly, to put together an event that the local community and county could be proud of. And in my opinion, I think we accomplished that. The first event that happened in early June was Pioneer Days. Lori Budney and her volunteers at the museum put on an event where 300 students from 6 local schools came to see what pioneers did to survive nearly 200 years ago. It was a hands-on experience for the students they are already asking to come back again next year, and yes, it's going to happen, and it will become an annual event. Then just a week before our main event, we experienced the biggest flood on the Athabasca anyone in this area could remember. We weren't sure if the canoe brigade would be able to use the river because of safety issues, and the marina where we were gonna land was underwater. Thanks to the good Lord, water levels dropped and the canoes could safely use the river. A big thank you from the community to Mr. Alan O'Brien and his people, and for those of you who don't know, a lot of his campers stayed during the event and helped him get it back in shape, and that was a lot of work. Rough estimate of nearly, I'd say over 2,000 people came to Fort Assiniboine over July 7th, 8th, and 9th and took part in their celebration. There were lots of things to do, and you've all got a copy of the attached agenda to see what was going on. Saturday was the busiest day with approximately 1,450 people attending the supper that evening. We fed them in a very lovely meal in just over an hour and entertained them until about 10:30 with Wild West Fiddlers and Calvin Barrhead and his band Country Swing. The event for many was more of a homecoming or family reunion. I talked with many people who were born and raised here and haven't been back in 30 or 40 years. And for a lot of these people, it was like a homecoming for them. They all said they had thoroughly enjoyed it and wondered when we're going to do it again. I don't think I'm going to be around for the next one. Somebody else might be. The event wasn't without its challenges. We completed the budget late last year with funding from Woodlands County Council and applied for a matching government grant. We were told we would hear about our grant funding in April, but made plans based on our application. Imagine our surprise when in early May, we found out they turned this down. We were 2 months away from the event, but we did our major budget adjustment and reached out to our local businesses from the county and surrounding area and asked for their support, which they did, and pulled it off. We couldn't have done it without county council or support of the local businesses within the area. The committee met recently to complete its activities and finalize the budget for the event. I'm very proud to report that as of November 27, 2023, closing bank balance of $12,395.78. I think you all got a copy of that. So now comes our request. The committee would like to request that the remaining monies be used for what we're calling legacy projects. The 2023 Bicentennial Voyageur Canoe Brigade, which is a separate entity. They were part of what we did, but they're a separate entity on their own. The Canoe Brigade for our event had 15 25-foot canoes and approximately 170 people involved in that project. They were part of their event, but their voyage started in Whitecourt and ended in Athabasca a week later. Everyone in the event had to pay to be part of the to be part of that. They, like us, had prepared a budget and were able to save monies because of gracious services and reduced costs from various municipalities along their trip. They've approached us at the museum with an idea where the committee would like to purchase a 25-foot Voyageur canoe, which would then be donated to the Forest Wine Museum. The museum would be asked to supply a trailer to haul it, and such things as paddles, life jackets, storage cabinets, etc. for the trailer. The canoe would be available on a rental basis, similar to one that's already taking place based out of Hinton. We have members of our group that have come forward to administer the canoe. It would travel all over the country. The trailer would be equipped with to haul 2 canoes, because a lot of people have their own, and when they go to these big events, they like to take one take the next one. So it would be equipped with 2. Most people would have their own canoes. As I said, we consider this a legacy project. It would be used to promote Fort Assiniboine, and I don't know, Gord, did you share with them the little logo? I'll just show you. This is a small one. We have one that's a little over a foot in size that would go on the front gunnels of the canoe, basically representing Fort Assiniboine. And the other idea was to put the Woodlands County logo on the trailer, so everybody knew exactly where this was coming from. One of the other project we're looking at, we're also looking at establishing an online archive of the photos and video that we put together this summer, and that would be shared on a video link for anybody that wants to see what had happened as more of a promotional item. There again, promoting Woodlands County. So with that, if there's any questions?
Hi, Councilor Coogan.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Number one is that one of the things that event did was part of our initiative is for regional alliances and regional development for economics in this area. And what this really did was it catapulted us into that a little further. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be the one that visited all of these different communities, met with those councils, and developed a rapport with them. And what was really interesting was the incredible amount of support that we got from those different municipalities. It was just unbelievable. And not only to promote the Bicentennial, but also that they were part of a region that was developed by the old highway, which was the river. That was one thing. The other thing is that there were 2 videos made, correct? One is the one that will be, is it on Wild TV or Outdoor Living Network? And that's Hot, what's it called, Hot Stones?
I believe it's Wild TV.
Or Wild TV. And that's the one that was developed, that was done by the Bicentennial Committee. And there was also another one done, which was really interesting, which was done with the Indigenous community. And it was the change of the paddle, and I think maybe Quentin and Teresa, you could inform council a little bit about that, because that was where the filming was done on the whole journey from Whitecourt all the way to Athabasca, and how some young people got involved in that, and how that now is developing a plan to actually bring school kids and young people from all over, wherever they want to come from, to do brigading or learn how to be in these canoes. And so I think this project did a whole bunch of things that we didn't expect. And we have in our community a couple that will have volunteered, I guess, to train these kids in these canoes. We have the Blue Ridge community area there where that training can take place. So a lot of things happened from this this celebration that we didn't expect, didn't know what was going to happen, and they really put Woodlands on the map in a completely different way.
As
I
I
think
mentioned,
that was something that I'd like to share.
The Pioneer Days started a year ago. This year was unheard of with that many children there, and they're trying to come back. One thing that did happen this year as part of that, Robin Barrhead from Big Stone First Nation set up a teepee, and the kids were just involved with that. And I know since that's happened, the school, Lauren,
Behind you.
Lauren,
On your blind side.
Lauren's over there on the blind.
Yeah.
Lauren's reached out to her and Barry Mustis from Alexis, and they're working with them through the school now. So we've made contact with those people and with the school, and now that's going to be involved in the school curriculum. And I think that's something that we haven't been doing here before, and I think that's important.
Question for administration, the 12,000 and change there in their friendly ask, is that still out of our 23 budget, or has that gone back in and coming back out, or is it already accounted for?
Yeah, no, your worship, members of council, we've allocated all $75,000 to the Bicentennial committee, so.
Okay, I'm just making sure it's not, more and more funds coming out of what we have there. Anything else from council, or anybody want to make a motion here? Councillor Wilhelm?
I'll motion that council accepts the Fort Assiniboine Bicentennial Planning Committee and Fort Assiniboine Friendship Club delegation as information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And motion number 2, where do we want to go? Councillor Wilhelm?
I'll motion that council approves the balance of funds remaining with Fort Assiniboine Bicentennial Planning Committee under management of the Fort Assiniboine Friendship Club for legacy projects.
Hey, any discussion on that? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? That's approved. Thank you very much for everything you guys did for that.
Thank you, gentlemen. As I said, there's no way how we could have done it without the support of council, and we should all be proud of what happened this summer.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I know we are running a little behind for our 6:15 delegation. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We got a couple people need to step out, so Councillor Dean.
Just before we break, Dale and your committee, just want to thank you guys for all the work you did. And, you talk about the homecoming effect and the exposure that it brought to our county. So thank you very much for all the work you did.
As I said, it was a homecoming. We had families that after supper wandered up and down through the crowd because they spotted somebody they hadn't seen since they graduated from here 50, 60 years ago. That's touching.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you. It's a great event, sponsored by the council.
Thank you, guys.
Make a little comment. Teresa and I were on the event committee as well as the brigade committee. And week after we were on this trip here, we went and did a brigade in Ontario, and people there were still talking about this one. How good it went, so.
Nice.
Felt pretty good.
Nice.
Nikita, just let us know when we're off. Just let me know when we are ready to go. Okay, we are back on again. Sorry for a little bit of a delay there,
That's okay.
but I guess we'll start. I'm not sure if you were here when we did the other introductions around the table, or if you'd like we can do a round of introductions here.
That'd be nice, please.
Perfect. I'll start with Mr. Frank.
Karen and I have reconnected over, what, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely, back in the 80s.
Carrie Stevens, Executive Assistant.
Bruce Prestidge, Counselor for Blue Ridge.
Dave Cush, the Reeve.
Peter Kilton, and I'm counselor for Goose Lake, Freeman River.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
And Alan Dean, Whitecourt Central.
Andre Bashan, Director of Infrastructure.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening again, Mayor and Council, Raven Council. Habits are hard to break. In front of you today is the Barrhead and District FCSS Society. This is Executive Director Karen Garify. She's going to go over some of the programs that the Barrhead and District FCSS does offer. So our Goose Lake and our Fort Assiniboine residents do have access to this new agreement that we've had for 3 years. That agreement is about to expire. So they're looking at expanding their services into the Fort Assiniboine area, and Karen will go over that as well or answer any questions. In the RFD, there was a smaller version, so I've given you the bigger version that she's gonna go over. And I'm gonna turn it over because she's the expert on these services.
Thank you. Thank you, Reeve Council. So I guess since I've started with FCSS for Barrhead and District, is we're seeing an increase in the residents that we're serving from Fort Assiniboine, Goose Lake area. And sometimes what we're seeing is transportation is an issue for the clients that we are serving within our community. And our goal is to have a presence, a weekly presence right here in Fort Assiniboine. That means that I would assign staff to be here on a regular basis within the community. So I'm actually going to start with the position that I would have here at least once a week, and that is our client support worker, and that is on your right-hand side of the paper. Our client support worker is basically a navigator. She helps people with information, referral, guidance, any of the systems out there, goal setting, whatever help it's for, whether if it's addictions or mental health or any of the issues, we have a client support worker that helps people navigate. And that's the one person that will for sure be in Fort Assiniboine at least one day a week. Then we'll go up to the top and we talk about our healthy aging programs. And that used to be what our seniors programs over 65. We've now reduced with Healthy Aging Alberta to 55 plus. Again, this is an area that we probably will see an increase is our home support program. So our home support program provides basic housekeeping for those that require services, again, 55 and plus, or if you've had medical surgery or other issues that have happened in your life where you need it for a term. Everyone 55 and plus can have the service long term. So we know that by having a client support worker within our community, the odds are that we will increase our home support program within this area also. We do want to do some seniors programming. So in Barrhead right now, we do things like our monthly seniors dinner, our weekly stretch and social, our weekly connect activity. We have the Snow Angel program where we have volunteers shovel driveways for seniors. We do Seniors Week activities, and again, we assist with local, provincial, and federal resources. So we help our seniors complete their benefit packages and so on a regular basis. And then we have our Healthy Aging Committee that kind of looks at gaps in services. Again, this is one area that at least once a month we would like to work with the residents in the area to provide a monthly seniors activity of some type. We'll go on to our support programs. Currently we do a Mom's Mind, which is a perinatal mental health program. Huge success in Barrhead and area. Again, we've had a request to offer it here. So again, depending on numbers, it might be something that we do here. We do the Compass for Caregiver, which is a kind of a support program for individuals who are caregivers. And that could be caregivers as a child or caregivers with someone with dementia, just any kind of caregiver. And again, we're running that program in Barrhead. And if we saw a need, we would run it here for a period of time or maybe once a year. Our Finding Your Voices is a women's empowerment group, and often it's women that have faced domestic violence that are part of this group. And again, if we saw the need here, based on the clients, we would offer it directly here. We offer grief support programs, same thing. Trauma-informed community, we would do some education on being trauma-informed. Emergency social services, again, that's ESS. ESS is not funded with FCSS dollars, it is funded with municipal dollars. And so typically, again, it's something that we can be activated on. If you needed help at this area, you could activate us with our ESS. We were activated with Swan Hills, and we provided services to Swan Hills back in springtime. Community Transportation Program. So this does not fit the FCSS mandate. However, I have applied for provincial funding to develop a community transportation program for Barrhead and area. In the proposal, I proposed after 1 year of doing it in the Barrhead area and working out the kinks that we would look at expanding to Fort Assiniboine Goose Lake. So again, it would be purchasing one vehicle and just even providing services to get them to medical appointments and so on. So the grant is for 55 plus and people with disabilities. So that would be accessible to your residents also. We are part of another group that is developing dementia-related programs for Barrhead and area. And again, we know that there is a need here. So whatever we develop, we will bring here also. So whatever services, education, or whether it's twiddle muffs or sensory kits, we would be able to provide them to your residents right here. And again, we do a lot of educational stuff. So right now we're working closely with AGNO, and I know that one of your council members is very close to AGNO. And we would like to do some educational sessions here in Fort Assiniboine with them. We go to our community awareness program. So in the spring, we will be doing a poverty simulation so that people can experience how fast you can decline into poverty in a 1 month scenario. So again, we will offer transportation for Fort Assiniboine because it's United Way out of Edmonton coming to Barrhead to do it, but we will assist in getting residents there. We do all kinds of education on Black awareness, Indigenous days, truth and reconciliation, bullying awareness, interagency, prevention of family violence. And we attend community events where we, again, would be part of the events here in Fort Assiniboine. And then we move on to our family programs. So we have weekly programs for our parents, children, and families. And I know that there is a program here in town. Our worker would support the program that's here and provide resources to this individual here too. So we do things like Circle of Security, emotion coaching. We work one-on-one with parents who need parenting help. And again, so that is something we do here. Then we go into our community programs. Now, the thing you have to be aware of with Barrhead and District FCSS Society is we are a society, so we can do more than your typical FCSS. So we have our FCSS funding, we have our family resource funding, and then we have our community dollars. And those are either grants or community donations. Because with that, we cannot operate a food bank with FCSS money. However, we in Barrhead are able to operate the food bank and Santa's Toy Box and the Hungry Kids program. And the Hungry Kids program was the program that was the school lunch, Barrhead Elementary school lunch program, hot lunch program. However, I felt it was not fair that we only provided to one school in our area and not all the schools. And so our Hungry Kids program is going to be expanded to the Fort Assiniboine. So this is where if the school needs granola bars or whatever else, we will deliver them weekly to the school from the food bank in Barrhead. We also do the Community Angels Recreational Program. Again, not an FCSS funded program, but a community donated donations. This is where we pay for rec fees, field trips, and so on. The person who approves that is the client support worker, that worker that's going to be here once a week. So again, we'll be able to help pay those fees for some of your kids in the community. The food bank, Santa's Toy Box, and hampers, we will be able to collect the information right here. The families could come and see us. We could even potentially deliver everything to do with Santa's Toy Box from Barrhead right here for them to pick up or deliver to their homes. So right now we're going to be handing out gifts, and I know we've got quite a few Santa's Toy Box application from the Fort Assiniboine Goose Lake area. But right now this year they're going to have to come and get it. I do have a couple staff that do live in Fort Assiniboine, so we're going to ask their help to maybe deliver a couple, but we will make sure that next year they are brought here. The coats for kids and families. So we always have the depot in Barrhead. However, we would start a depot here too every year. We do the We Can. Unfortunately, this is one we can't expand, but your residents can get, and maybe we'll look at potential delivery here. And this is working with the TGP group, where we get fruits and vegetables once a month and meat products at a discount to help families a little bit more. Volunteer registry and appreciation. Our welcome baskets, we would make sure that we develop the welcome baskets to include Fort Assiniboine, Goose Lake, and we would have some here available instead of them having to come see us in Barrhead. Our community volunteer tax program, again, we've always had it where they came to Barrhead at least once a week during tax season. We would offer the taxes done right here in community, and they could take them home right there. In-kind meeting space, again, that's just in Barrhead. We'll be able to do that. Community development projects, whatever need we see within the community that fits within the FCSS mandate, we will move forward on it. Again, working hand in hand with Heather. And we have lending activity kits. Again, it's for families or seniors or whatever else. And if they wanted those kits, our person once a week would bring the kits and they'd be able to pick them up right here in community. We also have our youth programs, and so the Heroes program is a program that we offer in schools, and that is one that we would offer here in the school. The Rainbows program also is one. So the Heroes program is more youth empowerment or child empowerment series, and the Rainbows program is more like a grieving or a loss program. We would offer those in your schools. We would also look at possibly doing youth activities once a month within the community. So in Barrhead, we have our chill zone. So once a week, we have a grade 4 to 6, grade 7 to 9, grade 10 to 12. And again, we would kind of look, can we bring it here? Or are there some activities that we're doing in Barrhead where we could offer transportation to get those kids to Barrhead? So there's a lot of ideas that the team has right now. Again, the tools for schools, we would provide the resources for the families who needed it. And in-school mentors. So in Barrhead and some of the other schools, we have in-school mentors. And again, we would work with your school here if they were interested to provide mentors within the school, so adult mentors. So wrapped in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. We do have a few projects here and there, but I would love to see us expand and have staff right here in the community to serve your residents better than what we have in the past.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dean.
Through the chair to Karen, I understand that the previous contract called for a contribution of 12.5 out of the 45.5 that came from the town of Barrhead. Is that right, or is that the provincial, the overall provincial contribution?
So the 12.5 was just what Woodlands provided to us. The town provides us 78,000 of town dollars, and the county provides us 78,000 of county dollars. We received 300 and our new amount, 360,000 from the province to offer services to the town and county residents.
So in this contract, this is an old contract we have here, and it's asked, the county's contribution is 12.5, I believe.
So that includes your provincial share. So the county's share was county dollars, 80-20, 80% province, 20% municipality of the 12.5.
Right, but so what's the new ask?
The new ask is 58,000. Again, 80% of that is provincial money, 20% is municipal.
Okay, so 20% of the 58.
Yeah, is what on top that the municipality would have to contribute, absolutely.
Okay.
Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. I just started to get my first meeting, I believe, on the 12th with Community Services, which I'm really looking forward to. And I have a ton of ideas that could help, you know, that I'd like to throw out there and see how we could massage that to get some more, I would say, community engagement from people who have the ability to do that. And I don't know what's possible, so it would be a discussion that I would love to get into.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, you also requested that we have somebody from this council be on the FCSS board.
Yes.
And now that you've given that presentation, I would definitely be interested in
Counselor Willem?
Isn't Devin already on that? I don't know if
We don't have a representation from Port Assiniboine anymore.
I don't think
Previously, we had Judy Bradley, who was the chair of actually our board, that was representing this area, but right now we have no one representing Port Assiniboine and Goose Lake at all. So we'd love to have someone.
But no, I really appreciate that you did this, and I'm looking forward to some of that stuff, so.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you too, Peter, because I think we've got a couple tasks we'd like you to do.
Okay, council, where do we wanna go with this? But, if we're gonna get Peter on the board too, I guess we got 3 motions we gotta go.
Just one clarification, so the $58,000 is an ask, right?
Yes,
Is you're also asking to allocate our portion of population towards that so that you can get the 80% funding from the province, is that?
no, you receive the entire amount,
That's correct.
and then you assign it
Yeah.
to me.
But you're asking us to sign a portion of that,
Yes,
To
to
you.
us,
Okay.
absolutely.
yeah, so now I know how you're doing it, okay?
Counselor Dean?
So yeah, I just would like some clarification on that as well. And I'm in support of the program. The program looks fantastic. It's logical to have a local presence, and it's certainly going to enhance the ability to provide those services to local people. I'm looking at this previous contract, and it speaks to a flat fee of $12,500. So what would the contract look like now?
Yeah, your worship, through to Councillor Dean, how I would allocate is the allocation of $58,000, and then we would internally, when we have to reconcile with the province, we would allocate 80% of that, of $58,000 from the province, to the province, right? So there's a $102,000 grant that we receive. We would get all of it. However, when we report back to the provincial government, we would say we're giving $58,000. So 58,000 times 0.8 would be allocated from the 102 that we received from the province.
So no longer a flat fee.
It would be a flat fee of an agreement of 58,000 every year. So if our FCSS grant would go up, we would still just do 80% of the 58,000. Yeah.
Personally, it would have been nice to see that in a contract. It's a verbal explanation, and this is, it's hard to put it all together.
Yeah, go ahead, Heather.
Your second motion in the RFD is to direct us to begin to have that, because it expires at the end of the year, so we would come back. We would discuss, we would have that contract and then come back to council. This is just for you to to direct us.
No,
Okay.
council would direct to enter into the agreement. Regardless of where the money is, council's expending $58,000. All we're simply doing is when the province wants us to reconcile the amount of money that they give us, we just indicate that 80% of the $58,000 has been allocated to Barrhead. That's all it is.
And so what happens in the provincial reporting is Heather links into me, I have to approve her request. When I do the provincial reporting, it shows that you've given us the 58,000, and in the outcomes, it has to meet the outcomes for your share also, so.
Yep.
Anything else from council? Councilor Dean?
So then, just for clarity, our contribution has increased from 12,500 to 58,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I'll make the first motion, then the council accepts the Barrhead and District FCSS Society delegation as information. Any discussion on that? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor of motion 1? Okay. Councilor Wilhelm.
through the chair to administration. So then is the motion 2 correct, or do we want to direct you to draft a 3-year agreement with the FCS for approval by council?
Your worship, members of council, through to Councillor Wilhelm, no, direct to enter into a 3-year agreement, right? So we would enter into a 3-year agreement for $58,000 as indicated in the budget, proposed budget for 2024.
And just to that, the proposed increase, I believe we already had in our budget.
Proposed budget, interim budget, yes.
Councillor Dean?
So could we just add that 58,000 to this motion then, so right at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'd be prepared to make a motion that council directs administration to enter into a 3-year agreement with the Barrhead District FCSS Society to deliver FCSS services to Woodlands County residents in Goose Lake and Port Assiniboine areas for the sum of 58,000
per year.
Okay. Motion on the floor, any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question, all in favor? And I'm gonna make a third motion off of Councillor Kuchen's suggestion that we appoint Councillor Kuchen as Woodland County's representative on the Barrhead District FCSS Society Board. Any discussion on that? Seeing any, just making sure you accept?
I accept.
I'll call the question, all in favor? There we go. Thank you very much for your time, and you have a representative now.
Thanks, that's awesome.
Okay, let's move down. 7.2, development permit application 15060, 2022 natural resource extraction for the Class 1 pit. Take us back to this, Joan.
Okay, council, so the public hearings were held January 16th, and of course this evening, the development application is attached with respect to what they're requesting for a Class 1 gravel pit. Attached is the additional information that council had requested, the traffic impact assessment and the cost analysis for future maintenance. The parcel is zoned natural resource extraction direct control district, pursuant to section 118 of the land use bylaw. The application meets the requirements of the Pine Valley Area Structure Plan, as well as section 73 of the land use bylaw. The applicant is also, there had been some outstanding issues with the previous owner, and they have agreed to ensure that with the approval of this permit that the reclamation and that needed to occur will also happen. So I've attached under various schedules discussion points from the aggregate committee that originally reviewed this and forwarded it to council for establishment of the public hearing, comments from the 2023 public hearing, written comments, emails received from our referral agencies, and then attached the new letter from the landowner that also spoke this evening. And yeah, just looking for council's consideration of the application. There are items that will need to be addressed as well, kind of next steps for consideration if council does, well, regardless if council approves or refuses this evening, is that review again of the long-term haul route options that were there, discussing designation of the aggregate levy generated from the local areas, as to whether we want to specifically earmark those for different projects or specific projects for the community. Yeah, and our planning document. We are in the process of the draft MDP has been reviewed by the public. Come forward probably the first meeting in January for first reading and approval thereafter after a public hearing. Land use bylaw we're in the process of starting. Hopefully completion end of 2024. And then we anticipate the budget in 2025 for review specifically of the Pride Valley Area Structure Plan, just depending on, at the time, council's priorities and budget resources. And one item of note, and we've done this with the other applicants, or sorry, owners down in the area, is that we encourage them to reach out to the other gravel operators in the valley. Consider hosting like a joint public consultation about their operations, what the industry standards are, best practices, and the integrity of the operators in the valley. Just, you know, giving the public a sense of what they're about, but coming in as a group, not just individually. So trying to encourage that. So attached for council's consideration are conditions for approval, or if council chooses, we could refuse the development application, and for the reason is indicated.
Okay, council, we've had lots of discussions around this. Council Prestige?
Through the chair to, I want to get back to Alberta environment. About 15, 16 years ago on the North Saskatchewan River, we had the same issue on some of our gravel pits that were flooding. And they pulled their permits for it because the river was flooding the gravel pits. I would really like to talk to Alberta Environment why they were allowing this on private land when you couldn't do it on crown land. Like, it's almost a double standard there. Like, the residents are very concerned with this flooding. So it'd be really nice to be able to talk to Alberta Environment and find out why they're willing to do this.
Through the chair to Councillor Prestige, definitely Alberta Environment, we could entertain having them come and do a presentation to council. I know that as part of their process, that they do speak with River Engineering and do almost like a referral process, much like we do to our government agencies. They do an internal. And in this instance, my understanding is that the developer has received those approvals.
We'll revolve.
It would be nice for us to have that presentation, so when our residents ask us about it, we can answer them.
Councillor Coolton, then Councillor Wilhelm.
Yeah, just a question, Joan, has this been in the flood mapping that's been done? Like, you know, that's one of the things that I find really interesting is that, you know, the pictures tell us a lot. And, you know, one of the things that was in discussion when they did this, when they talked about this Lafarge development over here, was that they would not be able to develop within this 100-year flood area. Well, we've had two there in the last probably 6 or 7 years. So, you know, we are kind of in between a rock and a hard place. We have to, you know, we should responsibly, under our structure plan, grant a permit because they're following all of those things. But then on the other side of the coin is we have this white elephant that has appeared that, you know, possibly will not make the end result that they want at this location possible, because the river will continuously flood any end pit lakes. There will be no development there. So it's a real dilemma that we're in.
So through the chair to Councillor Kilken, when we were implementing the Pride Valley Area Structure Plan, at the same token, we also took on doing the flood analysis. It was Matrix, I believe, that did this study for the area, and it is all mapped as far as the 1 in 100 flood elevations are identified as well. We had Alberta Environment at the table when this ASP was put into place.
Okay, Councillor Wilhelm.
Through the chair to Councillor Yesopi. I agree with Bruce and Peter's point. It will be interesting to find out why the Alberta government did approve this. And I think we should pursue finding out why, like what their mindset was behind approving this when it's clearly in a position that could get flooded. But then I just want to preface that by saying, in the end, like, Woodlands County is not investing money into this project. We're approving a permit if it floods or they can't continue on or they get their permits pulled. That's something they'll have to deal with, not something that Woodlands County will have to deal with. I understand we don't want to create a situation, to put them in a situation where that happens, and I think that they're willing to take on that risk. And we've made them jump through a significant amount of hoops already, and they've met every single thing we've said to them so far. So with regards, it does look like a flooding area, but I think that's risks that they're willing to take right now, and clearly the Alberta government is willing to allow them. And I think that we should continue on as a municipality in promoting business within our municipality as much as possible. And if they're willing to take that risk, I think we should too.
I'd like to say that at all of, you know, the public hearings we've had around this, flooding pictures and images have come out. So it's something that, and with the flood studies, I guarantee that they're definitely aware of. And if Environment Canada has, you know, they're obviously been part of this, or Environment Alberta, and they've approved the permits on their end, they have the flood mapping and everything in their end too. Again, if the province doesn't see an issue with putting this here, then the onus just comes down on us for approving the permit. But the operator is willing to take the risk, and the GOA said that, you know, that it's okay to go there. Councillor Cogan?
Yeah, I guess there is an investment that we do make, and that is in the infrastructure, which is, you know, if they were to pull the permits, then I guess the county could request that, you know, we recover some of that infrastructure cost that we would have to, you know. So, you know, I don't disagree with you on the development. It's just that, you know, I just struggle morally with making that decision, just based on the fact that, you know, we're the final decision maker, and yet that white elephant is there.
Mr. Prestige?
Through the chair, I agree. They have met every thing that we've asked them to do. It meets our development plans, everything. So I think we have to agree and approve this project. But in the background, I think as a municipality, we should find out more information why environment is doing this.
And for the residents, when this gets going and under operate, you know, if this is passed, I know there's been a lot of concern around hours of the running and noise, and it would be nice if we could possibly have our peace officer in the area maybe a little bit more for the first little, just kind of monitoring to kind of get an idea of what's going on and what times they're actually running, and make sure they're following the guideline. And not just this operator, but everybody in that general area, at least on our side of the river, that we can control, just to make sure that, you know, we're not pushing too many buttons on the residents with this. So, Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to Joan, I'm not sure if you mentioned the speed mitigation measures. Was that part of that overall plan to work with, again, all the operators, not just this one?
All the operators, yeah. Yeah, it would be a conversation outside of it.
Okay, so we'll make sure that's included in that conversation. Okay.
Hey, gentlemen, where do we want to go? Councillor Gogan?
Well, I'd just like to say to Joan is that I spent a lot of time reading through this, and you know, one thing that becomes really clear is that you guys do a hell of a job, you know, digging out all of this information and the infrastructure, and the questions that we ask are you know, to a certain degree motivated by, you know, the concerns that our residents have, and you know, so I don't see a problem with the process at all. I just have a real problem that that Alberta Environment doesn't step up to the plate and say, you know, what are we going to accept? Is there a double standard? And that's something that you guys can't control.
Okay, Councillor Wilhelm?
I'll make the motion that council approve development permit application 15060/2022 for a class 1 pit and processing on northeast 2 of 62 of 5 west of the 5th and plan 0929270 block 1 lot 1 with amended phasing plan with conditions as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Councillor Dean?
I'd like to make a further motion that we ask administration to invite Alberta Environment to come and have the conversation as to why this pit was approved in a known floodplain area.
Okay, is that perfect? Clear for administration? Any discussion on that?
I would just mention, if you say general pits, just so that you can then look at others.
Okay, friendly amendment. Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, down to 10.1, council reports and questions. Start with Councillor Prestige.
Okay. On the 27th, we had our operating budget discussion. And the 30th, we had our Whitecourt Regional Solid Waste meeting. And one of the discussions was we have a 963 Caterpillar track loader, and they're really contemplating doing a rebuild, much the same as we said we do with the graders. And it's what they said, it's half the price of buying a new one. So it's interesting. And then on the first, I went to my first REDA meeting in Marithorpe. Really interesting. We had lots of good discussions and some plans coming out of it, and I think it's going to be, how can I say it, very progressive. And on Sunday in Blue Ridge, we had the market at the hall, well attended. Only had one vendor that didn't show up, and that was because they were sick. And at the library, we had, Jenna did a bunch of events in the library, and they had a bonfire pit outside, and they were cooking s'mores and hot chocolate and all kinds of things. And they had about 200 kids attend. So it was very well attended. Hats off to them. And that's been it.
Okay. Any questions for Councillor Prestige? Councillor Dean?
Bruce, just curious about the REDA meeting. How many REDA members are there now? So that's Marithorpe, ourselves, and
Swan Hills.
Swan Hills.
Councillor Wilhelm?
Through the chair to Bruce, I had a business in Whitecourt that was actually asking, it's not Taste Buds, it was another catering service, but she was looking to host a community dinner style thing, so there would be no investment from Woodlands for that, but she was just looking for a facility where she could do it. She would cater the food, and then the cost of the food, the price of the community dinner would happen, and she would simply cover the cost of her food, and then any other money would be donated to local community events, community centers. So I just thought if she could contact you, that'd be good.
Yeah, or she can contact me or Jenna at the library. She's
okay.
Community board leader there.
Yeah. But definitely she can contact me.
Okay, I'll give her your number.
Okay, Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, on Monday, the 27th, we had our operating budget, which was a really interesting exercise. Then on Thursday, the 30th, I had a meeting with the Barrhead District Social Housing Board. Business as usual. We had a couple of interesting discussions over where we are going to go with this new needs assessment. On the first, we had the REDA meeting, and that was probably the best meeting we've had in a long time. there was a number of things that came out in there. One was that, we have, I believe, right now, 3 more municipalities that are going to commit to the project, which is to define exactly how the Regional Economic Alliance is gonna work. Because the one that was there before wasn't working the way it should. Partly because, of the absence of an executive director, and partly through COVID and stuff, we lost a lot of interest in doing anything just because it was a difficult time. We are interviewing tomorrow morning. I'm interviewing with the chair a prospective executive director, which is going to be super important so that we get that out of the hands of the board. Our AAIP program is being well subscribed to. I believe, what did they say, 8? Or around 8 people. So it's unique because we have 3 municipalities that are involved, and potentially if we bring on these other municipalities, that's going to be 3 more. And it's been identified that through the regional economic development specialists that there are probably 3 or 4 more municipalities that are very interested, and so we're inviting them to develop that project, which we're doing through a consultant group called Clear Things. So it was really positive, the last meeting. The other side of it, which we're going to try to iron out, which I've been kind of thrown into the fire on, is how we bring Wild Committee back into the complete picture without the, I guess, difficulties we've had in the past. And we're going to have our first meeting tomorrow night on that. And that's pretty much been my week.
Any discussions for Councillor Kuchen? I do have one, I guess, kind of this be a harder one to say around the REDAs, but do we have much tangible return for the money that we put into those? Yeah, it's an investment that the municipalities put in. I know like a lot of the others have pulled out of this one. Yeah. I'm just wondering from an economic standpoint, what are we actually getting out of being in it?
Okay, I think that's a really good question, because that's one I asked myself for quite a while, because the good thing about it is that we've had Bert, our economic development guy, actually shepherd this into a place where it needed to be. And the value that we've had so far, the only project that we've had that's been successful is the WILD project, which has been really hugely successful due to the TRF funding. There has been some other things that we've done, the Energy Futures Lab. There's a number of small projects. But I think the big thing that we have to understand is that this is the way that the provincial government wants to put project funding through, and it'll be through the REDAs. The Regional Economic Development Specialist told us that if you're not in a REDA, you will not be eligible, because it can't be done by municipalities on their own. That's not the way the system works, the way the government funds. So under the economic development, the regional, the EDRAP they call it, that's the one that is going to dictate what kind of funding we get, and it'll have to be in alignment with the strategic plans of the municipality and what actually the province wants to do. So it's too early to tell, but I think that just the investment that we put in for the tourism piece is a payback. So we put $1.60, I believe, per capita.
Councillor Dean.
Back to Peter. So there's 3 members now. How many members were there when you first joined?
There was Lac St. Anne and Barrhead, and both of those, there was 5.
Barrhead County or
Yeah,
Barrhead?
Barrhead County.
Barrhead, but not Barrhead.
But not Barrhead, and I'm working on that right now. So.
Any other comments for Councillor Cogan? Moving on, Councillor Wilhelm.
you. Well, as you guys know, I was mostly out of town for work the last little bit. I ended up missing the Christmas parade, which I've gone to the previous 2 years, so I kind of wish I had been there for that, but it looked like it was a good turnout, and you guys had great weather. Did get to go to the Christmas party, so that was awesome to get to spend some time around the staff, spend time around with other counselors. That happened on the 2nd. And that was, other than that, it was pretty uneventful for me. We do have some good stuff coming up, though. We have our joint Christmas dinner with the town tomorrow, and then next Tuesday, our community services for Woodlands and for the town of Whitecourt are getting together for the first meeting in a very long time. So, see if we can find any things to do together from that. Other than that, that's all I have.
Any discussion, Councillor Wilhelm? See any, Councillor Dean?
So as far as activities, like everybody else, I attended the budget meetings and also attended the Christmas parade. And as Councillor Wilhelm said, we got a beautiful night for that. And that was well attended by residents. That was a lot of fun. And then I also attended, along with everybody here, the staff Christmas party, which I believe was the first one since 2018, 19. So it's nice to see that. That's a good morale building, team building activity, and it was nice to see that. I do have one thing that I want to bring to council and administration's attention. Received a call from a resident that lives in a subdivision in the division that I represent, and her concern was that now that speed limit signs have been installed within the subdivision, the speed of the local traffic has actually increased. I asked this individual whether she had talked to her neighbors, and she said yes, and it was a concern, and asked her if she had contacted administration, and she said that she had. And she told me that when she contacted the county office, the person that she spoke to told her that county admin had received numerous complaints / concerns about speed within subdivisions increasing once the signs are there. So we have a policy that says this internal speed limit is 60K, and that was approved. I explained to her that there is a process to have the speed limit reduced, but I just thought it curious that once those speed limit signs went up, the speed increased. So I just wanted to put it on council's radar that that could be something that you guys receive complaints about as well.
Any discussion for Councillor Dean? Councillor Prestidge?
Yes, I had one in my area, Gano Acres, same thing. I don't think the speed has increased, but they were worried it would.
Okay.
Any other comments? No? Okay, I guess I'll move on to mine. We had the budget talks. Obviously, everybody's out there. Made the MDP open house after our last council meeting in Whitecourt. It was fairly well attended, I think. Lots of questions out of there. I was invited to the Ecole St. Joe's provincial volleyball opening ceremonies. A lot of teams from out of town, all over the province. There was great opening ceremonies, all the presentations and the dancer they had, and this might be very, very well done. It was a great ceremony to be part of, and thankful I was there. Got to take part in an industry breakfast with a bunch of Tom Pickard was there and a lot of other business representatives from around the community, and just kind of an update on all, I guess, a lot of where their businesses are at and kind of programs and stuff they're doing. And a lot of them are, be no surprise to council here, but working on mental health amongst their employees is a huge thing and a huge concern for a lot of the employers, especially in industry now. It's more so to the forefront, I think, nowadays than it has been in the past, and it's I say better late than never to, I guess, get on that. So made the annual Christmas parade. We had, I think Mr. Roach said we brought along 5,000 pieces of candy, and we passed that out just over halfway around the parade route. So I think next year we might have to double what we brought, but it was very, very well attended. The weather was weather was nice, and some of the floats they had out there from some of the businesses were absolutely amazing. I had a Whitecourt Library Board meeting. Most of that one was around, I guess, organizational. They have a bunch of new members at large came on, so designating your new chair positions and working around that, and just kind of an update on the budget and where they're sitting at. I guess the Whitecourt Regional Solid Waste, we talked about that. Made the Christmas party. The band was fantastic. It would have been nice to see a few more employees out, but like I said, it was the first one after COVID, and I know it's a busy time of year, but it was still a great time. I was happy to actually be part of that and involved with that. Monday had a YRL board trustee meeting. Again, it was a lot of new members, through org reviews and stuff. This is our first one through that. So kind of going over some of the basic policies and stuff, because we had some new members on there working with. And I think the best one out of all of them that I had, though, was I had the privilege of handing a check this morning to the Dions for their light up, I guess, event or whatever they have out there at their acreage. And again, I would highly recommend anybody from the community and council, even from up in this area, if you want to go for a drive one night, it's a fantastic thing to go and drive through and take a look at. And that's what I got. Councillor Wilhelm.
I apologize, I should know this. What are the dates again of the Dion event?
I apologize, I should know this. Heather, do you know the dates for their light up? I think they.
This weekend, December 9th, and
Yeah.
then next weekend, I believe, that's the 16th?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Alright. Any other questions? No, with that, can I get a motion from council to accept the council reports? Councillor Coogan.
I make a motion that we accept the council reports.
Motion on the floor. Call the question, all in favor? Perfect. And down to committee of the whole, if I get somebody to make a motion to go into committee of the whole under FOIP 17 and 19. Councillor Prestige.
Make a motion that council go into council as a whole for FOIP 17 and 19.
Mr. Frankus, your hand up there.
Your worship, just so the audience is, you're not gonna stream again?
No, after this coming out, we'll won't be streaming. We just have the motion to adjourn after. So, motion on the floor to go into committee of the whole. Call the question, all in favor? That one's carried at